Hey everyone, it's me, Jennifer, and I'm back to read you some more of Tuesdays at the Castle by Jessica Day George. But before we start, I want to say hello to some really amazing friends out there. I want to say hello to Willa and Clara and Iris. And I also want to say hi to Jason and Cole, Jackson, and Isa. It's so good to see you, and I'm glad you could join us for these story times. I hope you'll come back for every chapter. So, with no further ado, Tuesdays at the Castle by Jessica Day George, Chapter 2. Everyone hates me, Celie grumbled. No one hates you, her sister Lila said soothingly, but you do have a tendency to bounce. There's nothing wrong with bouncing, Celie insisted. Very true, her brother Rolf said, coming into the room. Let's bounce right now. Grinning at Lila in a way that was sure to irritate her, he took hold of Celie's hands and they began to jump up and down in place. Celie forgot to pout and laughed as they jumped. Rolf could always make her laugh. Lila tossed her dark hair to show Rolf that he was being silly and went to the window to look out. They were in Lila's room, which was quite large and grand, and straddled a narrow bit of the north wing. There were windows on the one side that looked out on the main courtyard, and on the other side was a balcony that hung over a sort of atrium with a fountain in the center of it. Lila was at the courtyard windows, checking on their parents' travel carriage, which was being stocked with lap rugs and novels prior to the king and queen taking a journey. Celie stopped jumping. Done then? Rolf collapsed on Lila's bed, knocking several of the many small cushions onto the floor. You do like to bounce, don't you, Seal? Not any more, Celie muttered. I'm going to have to start climbing through that fireplace into the new room, Rolf went on, not having heard her. Get in some practice. He held his chest and panted. Celie watched a trunk the size of a coffin being carried out by two burly footmen and loaded into the luggage cart that waited beside the carriage. It would indeed be a long journey her parents were taking, and they weren't taking her with them, which is why she had been in the throne room getting underfoot until Lila had lured her upstairs with the promise of caramel apples. And there's no caramel apples, she griped. Caramel apples? Rolf leaped back off the bed. Where? There will be, Lila said with great patience. Once Mother and Father are gone, Cook said that we could make them ourselves tonight after supper. Excellent, Rolf said. I do like a caramel apple, also with chocolate on, and cinnamon sugar. He rubbed his hands together eagerly. He was tall and blond with endearingly crooked front teeth. Celie, who was also blonde but small, she was only just 11, gave her brother a dark look. I'd rather go with Daddy and Mummy, she said, knowing she sounded like a brat. But if you just want to fill your stomach, you can stay here. Cecilia! Lila's voice was sharp. She was tall, and when she stood shoulder to shoulder with Rolf, their resemblance to the king and queen were both striking and intimidating. You know very well that we cannot go to the College of Wizardry, so there is no need to be rude about it. I know that Rolf can't go, Celie grumped. Her tutor had explained that a king and his heir never traveled together in case of an accident. But I don't understand why I can't go and see Bran graduate. Because Father said no, and Father is the king, Lila said. Well, it's a silly reason, Celie said, knowing that she sounded even more childish, but not caring. She ducked between them and out of the room. She paused for just a moment in the hallway, but she heard Lila say, "Oh, let her go, Rolf. She's determined to be difficult." So Celie stomped off down the hall. She found some stairs and climbed them, and then a hallway and more stairs, and just kept going. She didn't have her atlas with her and wasn't sure she'd ever seen this particular staircase, but she was trying too hard to hang on to her disagreeable mood and told herself she didn't care if she got lost. Not that she thought she'd get lost. All of the royal children knew the rules very well, and besides, it was fairly obvious that the castle liked them. But Celie was trying to make an atlas of Castle Glower, the first ever, and normally carried colored pencils and paper with her to sketch anything she hadn't seen before. So far, she had 300 pages of maps and could get to most of the major rooms: winter and summer dining halls, chapel, library, throne room, in record time, as long as the castle wasn't bored and looking to stretch. But all she found at the top of the stairs was a small, round room. Still, she didn't want to stomp back down the stairs just yet, so she stayed to explore. The room had windows that looked in all four directions, and she could see the mountains around Castle Glower's small bowl-shaped valley. There was a gold spyglass mounted in each of the windows. She peered through the eastern one and saw the slopes of the Indigo Mountains, dotted with small villages that were populated mainly by goat herds. She looked to the south, where the main road wound between the mountains towards Slane City, where the College of Wizardry was. It made her sad all over again, so she turned to the center of the room. The only thing in the room, other than the spyglasses, was a large table with some things scattered across it. She found a coil of rope, a book, a compass, and a large tin that proved to be full of hard ginger biscuits. Celie took one of the latter. It was the kind of sweet that often got passed around at midwinter when guests would show up unexpectedly and cook didn't have time to make fresh biscuits. "How long have these been here?" Celie frowned at the biscuit. She had nearly broken a tooth biting into it. It could have been there for 100 years and would probably be edible for 100 more. She went to the window and tossed it down to a flat section of roof a little ways away. It broke into pieces, which some sparrows pounced on, and then withered off a moment later in disgust. She looked down into the main courtyard and saw her parents standing before the travel carriage. Rolf and Lila were there, and the steward and the others of the castle's staff. Oh no! Her parents were leaving, and she wasn't there to tell them goodbye. She had thought about hiding until they left to make them regret leaving, but now she wanted very badly to hug both her parents. She raced out of the round room and looked down the twisting staircase in despair. She leaned against the wall, suddenly tired from all of the emotions of the day, and realized that she was leaning against another door. Had it always been there? It was narrow, and she pushed it open listlessly, certain that it would just prove to be a small cupboard, and then she would have to hurry even faster to catch her parents. But to her delight, it was a stone slide that curved down following the path of the staircase. Celie sat at the top, tucked her skirts around her knees, and pushed off. The slide curved and spun, and Celie laughed as it whizzed her down through the castle and deposited her right at the edge of the courtyard, no more than a dozen paces from where her parents were standing. Celie scrambled to her feet and tidied her gown and hair, not sure if her parents would be angry with her or not. She had been hanging around the throne room and their private chambers all morning, hoping that if she got in the way often enough, they would relent and take her along. Finally, her father had yelled to Lila that she needed to do something with that little sister of hers. "Come here, darling," said Queen Selina now, holding out her arms. Celie ran to her mother and hugged her tight. The queen always smelled like strawberries, and everyone said that she was as beautiful at 40 as she had been when the king had married her. Tall and slender and stately, with her long dark hair pinned up with gold combs, she wore a travel dress of soft green that set off her eyes. "I'll miss you," Celie mumbled into her mother's waist. "I'll miss you too," said the queen. "I'll miss all my darlings. But we won't be gone long. We're just going to see Bran graduate, and then we'll all be home again." "Bran too?" "Bran too," Queen Selina assured her. "He will be the new royal wizard when we return." She smiled sadly. The old royal wizard, her father, had died 2 years before. Then the queen turned Celia around and pushed her gently toward the king. King Glower was trying to look stern, but his face soon melted, and he held out his arms to his little girl. "Come on, then, Celia Delia," he said. Celie jumped into his arms and buried her face in her father's neck. His travel robe had a fur collar, and it tickled her nose. "I still want to go," she said. "Not this time, sweetheart," her father said. "When you are older, I will take you to Slane City to see all the sights." "I could see the sights now," Celie said reasonably, "with you and Mummy and Bran." "Another time," her father said. He set her down on the cobbles and disentangled her arms from his neck. "Besides, the castle needs you. I wouldn't want to make it angry by taking you away for too long." "Oh, pooh." But Celie couldn't help being a bit flattered. She liked to imagine that the castle really did like her, and it was nice that her father had noticed. "Besides, somebody's got to keep me in line," Ralph said easily, putting an arm around her shoulders and drawing her to his side. "Don't worry, Mother," Lila said, kissing the queen's cheek. "I'll look after both of them." Celie and Rolf shared an eye roll. They knew what that meant. Lila would act queenly and matronly by turns and order them to eat in the summer dining hall in full court dress every night. But she'd also admonish them constantly to eat their vegetables and not slurp their soups. Celie wondered how long it would take her parents to reach Slane City, see Bran graduate, and bring him home. More than 2 weeks of Lila's mothering, and they should all run mad. But now her parents were in the carriage and waving, and the carriage was moving out of the castle gates and down the long road to Slane City. They waved until the luggage cart and the ranks of soldiers on horseback blocked the royal traveling coach from view. "All right, both of you," Lila said briskly. "Back into the castle. It's a bit chilly out, and I don't want you to catch cold." "Lila," said Ralph. "Yes, dear." "Tag, you're it." Ralph racked her on the arm and took off at a run. Lila shrieked in outrage, but Celie didn't wait around to see what happened next. A well-played game of tag could go on for days in Castle Glower, and Lila had been known to cheat. And that is chapter 2. Thanks for joining me. Sleep tight tonight, and I'll see you tomorrow for chapter 3. Take care.